I'm going to try to make this not too long a video. This is kind of a breakout because I'm working on another project. This is a belt project, and I had something went awry. It went nuts. I don't know. It happens. Stuff happens. I think what happened is I turned my heat down in my shop because it had a couple of really nice days. Now it's cooled off again. It's Minnesota. It's springtime. Stuff happens. We live with it and we get on with it, and off we go. What happened was I was doing this belt for a video. I applied my tan coat, and my tan coat started doing some weird stuff. And I hope it shows up. It got streaky, it's splotchy, it's gross. Sometimes when you apply a second coat, it'll straighten it out. A second coat did not straighten it out. Actually, most of the time the second coat will go on and it's going to be beautiful. It did not happen in this case. It got even worse. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to deglaze it. Deglazing is a process of removing a finish, essentially. In my understanding of it, I'm far from an expert. I've been doing leathercraft for a dozen years or so, and I'm not a genius. I'm not an expert in the field. None of that. This is my understanding of it is deglazing is left for removing any kind of finish, and for prepping the leather to take a finish. But that's when it's already got something done to it. So if I was doing a holster that had a finish on it, I would want to remove it. Like if it had a tan coat finish or a lacquer finish on it, I'd want to deglaze it and get rid of that lacquer finish so I could recolor it or refine the color of it. And I've had to do that on holster restorations before because the finish was just so bad on it that it had to be refinished. And I try not to do that because it affects the history, but sometimes you just have to. It's the only way to bring the holster back to a good life. So in this case, I need to remove this tan coat, and I did the backside already. And you can see it takes some of the dye with it because it's what it does. Just what it does. And I'll have to apply another coat of dye on the back here, and by the time I'm done with the front, I'll have to do that too. But I'm going to get you zoom in down here on the bench a little bit, show you what I'm doing, and it's quite simple. I'll get rid of that tan coat and we'll apply another coat of dye, and off we go to the races. I think part of what happened on the back was this leather's been kicking around the backing of this belt kicked around my shop for a couple of years, and I found it and I decided I was going to use it as a backing on this belt, and it was not the right thing to do. So I'm going to go ahead, zoom in, we'll take this tan coat off of here, and we'll go on and make it beautiful. Hey folks, just want to jump in. I'm going to try to make this quick. I wrote down a few talking points, which means I'll probably talk too much. In this video, I'm deglazing a belt. I'm removing a top coat is what I'm doing. So removing a top coat, removing a top finish is the main reason that I deglaze. I do it in restoration work, and I do it in this case where I screwed up a top coat, or it got screwed up. And those are the two reasons that I use it, is for removing a top coat and cleaning leather. Every now and again we'll get leather that is, just been kicking around the shop for a while and just needs to be cleaned. Sometimes you'll get a piece that might have got some grease on it from something. I don't have a lot of stuff with grease around my shop, but every now and again, on my press behind me here, or behind you, there might be something greasy there, and it got grease on the leather. I'll have to get that cleaned off before I can dye it. So deglazing is the way you'd get rid of that. So it's used for cleaning. and correcting top coat. Some people will use that, I guess, for tooling. They'll deglaze the leather so it absorbs the water better for when they're moistening the leather. I don't know. I don't do it. That's what I use it for, is just the top coat and cleaning. It will take some finish out. So be prepared to dye again. You may or may not have to add dye. Sometimes you'll get away with it. You cannot go lighter. Keep that in mind. You can't go, if you want to recolor something, you're not going to be able to go lighter with the dye. You're going to have to go darker. It'll take some color away when you deglaze something, and you'll see that in the video. But you can't go lighter. You'll have to go darker. So you can't take a black belt and make it brown by deglazing. It's just not going to work. The brown is not going to be brown. So keep that in mind. As far as the deglazing agent, I use a 90% isopropyl alcohol as my primary deglazing agent. In a case of something that is, some of those old Luger holsters have like a lacquer finish on them, and that isopropyl alcohol just doesn't really cut that real well. I will use a full strength acetone very, very carefully, and only where I have to use it. You've got to be very judicious when you're using the acetone because it's very strong. And any of these things that you're using, make sure you're in a well ventilated area. Please be careful with it. It can make you sick. It can, I don't know, make your brain go crazy. I don't know. Do weird stuff. It's not good to be breathing. So be very well ventilated. My shop is well ventilated. In the video, I got a window cracked open. I don't say that, but I have a window that's cracked open right over here. I'm pretty well ventilated. But that's my primary one, isopropyl alcohol. Usually 90%. Deglazer, you can use a regular deglazer. Fiebings makes a deglazer. Angelus makes one. Tandy probably has one. I don't know. You can get deglazers. They're more costly than the isopropyl alcohol. That's why I use isopropyl alcohol. I think the alcohol works better, as the deglazer is kind of like a light version of acetone. So take that for what it is. When you're done and you got your you've recolored it and you're satisfied, before you put a new top coat on, at least I say before, make sure you re-moisturize the leather, because deglazing is going to suck all the moisture out. So you need to put that moisture back in. If you're using a veg tan leather like we used on this belt in the video, just give it another coat of oil. I use neat's foot oil. Give it a coat of neat's foot oil. Put your top coat on it, and you're off to the races again. So, just want to jump in, make sure I'm clear about all that. I'd hate to see somebody ruin their project based on something I said in one of my videos that I wasn't clear about. If you have any questions on this subject, please drop a comment below. If you want me to do another video to be, I don't know, more of a DIY tutorial on deglazing leather, I'm happy to do it. And any other videos you want to see, drop a comment below. If you got any questions, you can certainly email me. My email me is on my About page on my channel. So, with that being said, let's get on with the video. In this case, all I'm using is a 91% isopropyl alcohol. I don't want to use anything too toxic in a really bad scenario. I've used acetone. Acetone is really, really bad. If you don't have to use it, don't. But if you're dealing with a lacquered finish, sometimes you got to use the acetone to eat through the lacquer. This is tan coat. It should get right through the tan coat. Well, it does get right through the tan coat pretty quickly. And it should get us moving on pretty fast here. I'll be able to apply some dye here in a little while. So, I'm going to start here at the buckle end, and I just simply find a fresher spot on the rag, get it on there, and you can feel it right away, that tan coat loosening up. And I'm just rubbing it off. That's it. And you kind of got to give it a few seconds here for for it to dry off. And I want to make sure I get around the edges, because I did apply tan coat on them, so I need to get that off. And you'll see it's nice and dull. Whatever tan coat is left behind, the dye will soak through. So I'm not going to worry too much about that. That's really all there is to it. That's deglazing leather in a nutshell. So really, you don't necessarily have to deglaze your leather before you apply a finish to it, before you dye your leather, because deglazing is a harsh process on the leather, and you don't really need to do it. Normally with veg tan leather, as I did with this belt, I oil it and then I'll apply a finish to it. Or in this one, I dyed it first and then oiled it. So I may apply oil to it, but you can see I pretty much have all the tan coat off of there. I'll go over it one more time, just to with a fresh spot on the rag, just to make sure I got it all off of there, and we'll reapply. Not sure I'm going to use tan coat. I may try to, after I re-dye it, I might try to, I don't know, just maybe I'll use some Carnauba, maybe some Connolly's, I don't know. I'll try something a little different, something that's not as temperature sensitive. I think it was just a little too cold in here when I applied the tan coat. So I'm going to get on with this, and hopefully I was a little informative. If I can get you some links to something that tells you a little more about deglazing leather and why we do it and how to do it, I'll put a link in the description. So there's the front, and you can see there's some light spots in it, mostly light spots, but that's okay. The main bit of dye that I first did is penetrated into the leather very well, so another single coat of leather dye is going to do the job. Here's what it looks like at the back. You saw the back before. That looked much like the front. Very light spots. Try to get that so it shows a little better. And it's just a single coat of dye. I might put another one on there just for good measure. Looks pretty good. I will probably, at this point, just use some Resin on it, just because it goes on a little better when it's cold. It just takes forever to, well, it takes a lot longer to set up, which is fine. I can deal with that. I'll put it on, go in for the night. So I'm not too concerned about that. I'll put on another coat of dye, and we'll call it good for the night. Alright, well there you go. That's what it turned out like after that. So you can see that it's pretty light. There's a lot of light spots in there. Had to get that stuff off of there because it was just looking really bad. I might have been able to fart around with it, but there's just more time invested in farting around with it and trying to get it to come back than there is just in stripping it off and starting over. So I'll get another coat of dye on the back here. It looks pretty good. I'm just going to put another coat on there for good measure and call it good. And that's really, in my understanding of deglazing leather, that's what it is you're just getting rid of whatever finish or top coat or whatever is on there. And sometimes when you do buy, like that blank that I put on here, it must have had some kind of a glaze or something on it that prevented it from soaking up the dye. It kind of dyed funny, and I should have stopped right there, but I didn't. I wanted to get the project done for that belt video, and it didn't happen. This happened. So I'm just going to kind of break this out of that video, put this one separate, show you my technique for doing this. I've done this on vintage holsters and it works fine, and I've had to re-dye, and then I'd go ahead, come back, and I moisturize the leather really well. And it is what it is. It's just sometimes that's what we have to do. I may re-oil this leather again, just because that alcohol can really suck some of the moisture out of it. But I hope that was helpful and informative. I'll verify my information. I'll leave some links down below to some better information, maybe some other videos that talk about deglazing leather from people that know more than I do. Alrighty, y'all stay safe. God bless. If you're not subscribed already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Hit the like button. I appreciate that. And drop a comment, good, bad, or indifferent. I like reading them, and I always try to respond to every single one of them. Catch you in the next video.